there was a problem, yo, I'll solve it. Word to your mother.
And here we are. Welcome, everyone, to Two Cool Moms. I'm Joe Gatto.
I'm Steve Byrne.
Now, let's talk about it, okay? We're clearly not equipped.
Yeah.
This is a kind of DIY situation, doing it yourself.
Yep.
Our producer, Jiggy, had his nuptials. He got married, so we had to put together to do a couple episodes.
Yeah.
And we're forced to do it in my apartment. Stevie flew in.
But it's a good vibe in here.
It's a good vibe.
It's a very positive vibe.
It's a positive?
It's a bit of a dour day out there, but
Yeah.
it's your place is it's uplifting. There's a lot of brightness in here.
You know what I'm saying about you? You know when you talk about places like you're doing like, you know when you're trying to justify when you were staying at a place to get a drink? Do you have the one drink rule when you go into a place? You're like, all right, when you go into a place, you have to at least have one drink here.
Yeah.
So then you're trying to talk about yourself into staying there. Like, well, there's a good vibe here.
It is, yeah. It is, though. You got some cool stuff.
Got some collectibles and things, yeah?
Yeah. I go by to use your restroom, and the Muppets are there, and the
One of Biscotti, one of my dogs is having a reverse sneeze attack. You all right, Boo-Boo?
What is that?
They do a reverse sneeze when
Excuse
they're
me?
like, it's basically.
I've never heard that in my life.
Yeah, all my little dogs do it. There she goes. So she's fine. So it's basically like the air is going into her instead of at you. It's like rushing in. You see it? Yeah. Here you go. Everything's fine here. It's a good vibe. It's a good vibe.
Wait, it's a reverse sneeze?
Yeah, that's what they call it. A reverse.
What's a reverse fart?
It's just a burp.
It's amazing that you'll sit there. We'll get ready. We're looking for wires. It's like an hour to set up. We're eating lunch. The dogs are so sweet. And the minute you hit record, it's like, it's like, what is going on?
Yeah, poor bug. Yeah, well, these things happen. You know, you roll with life. It's the vibe of the place. You never know what you're going to get with the dogs.
You never know. Now, listen, before we started filming, you brought up something that's near and dear to my heart.
Yep.
Elvis. So you saw Elvis.
So the Elvis movie on the plane on the way back from Fargo. I liked it a lot, actually. I thought it was unlike anything I'd ever seen. I'm not a big Elvis fan. Not that I'm not a fan, but I wasn't into it. And then I thought everything was done. It felt like nothing I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
You know what I noticed a couple times as a filmmaker? I noticed a couple times that the music didn't stop as scenes were going.
Yeah.
And then they would just come back to it, and then they would go back to the jazz club down on Beale Street, and the music would still. And I hadn't even realized that the music hadn't stopped.
So they'd
be having full scenes.
They'd keep going, yeah.
And it was just the soundtrack of it.
Yeah. The first time I remember that, I was aware of that was like Hans Zimmer. I'd seen, I think it was probably one of the Dark Knight films.
Yeah.
And the music is just underlying, and then you realize, I've been watching a montage for 8 minutes.
That's right.
And they've had this music going the whole time. It's just the same beat on a loop, on a loop, on a loop.
Yeah.
But that Elvis movie, you think about all the films you go see. For the most part, it's like an hour and a half, 90 minutes for a film.
Yeah.
You spend $12 to go see that movie. And you go see Elvis, you spend $12, the same amount as a 90-minute film, but it's like you're getting 3 times the film.
Yeah.
Because even the beginning, it's just like, there's so many visuals that are so quick and flashy and blend into each other, from animation to, like really wild graphics to, this trippy kind of like...
I love how they did the name of the towns on like the things.
It was so awesome,
really cool.
yeah.
So
there's
even
a lot
if
of artistry.
If you're not an Elvis fan, I would just say you could still watch it. I felt the same way about the movie Ray. Did you see Ray?
A long time ago, but loved it. Yeah,
I love
sure.
it. Like I didn't.
That
really
felt
know
a lot
much
more
about
grounded than
Yeah.
this one was more kind of, it's Baz Luhrmann. It's a lot flashier, but there's so much.
If your name's Baz, you have to be flashy.
You have to be, yeah.
Right.
And the guy dresses like a figure skater. Have you? I follow him on Instagram.
Do you really?
And he's really flashy. He's very fashionable. Yeah, you're right. Your name is Baz Luhrmann.
Your name's not Greg Filbert. Greg Filbert. He's in like a hoodie and like
He's the night shift manager at Home Depot.
That's right.
And Baz Luhrmann is making these incredibly beautiful film, like Moulin Rouge and Romeo and Juliet.
The nicknames that you could have as Baz, though, like you're such a Baz ass. He had so much pizzazz. Like I'm jealous. Joe's got a lot of pun words, though. Steve doesn't really, though.
No,
Steve
is
alone.
just
Steve it alone. Right? Stevie alone. That's all I got. When Stevia came out, you had to be pissed. Was that copyright infringements?
What?
Stevia, the sweetener. Stevia. When
No,
that
I
came
never
out?
even.
You
Is
never
there
even
a
heard of
sweetener?
Stevia? Yeah, it's like a cancer-causing sweetener.
Oh God!
No, I'm not kidding.
God!
I'm just kidding.
Is that the thing that's in everything?
No, that's
What's the one that's like if you have a 0-calorie drink but it still tastes awesome? It's like, oh, you're gonna die.
aspartame.
That's it.
Aspartame.
Yeah.
Aspartame. That's my blood type.
Mine's gravy.
Gravy. Nice. Yeah. Aspartame.
But Elvis was I think that was one of the best films I've seen. I saw it. I think I've seen it 4 or 5 times in the theater. I can't remember if it's 4 or 5, but I just the first time I saw it, I was like, this is something you got to see in a movie theater.
When I am telling, I saw it on an airplane. When I say to you,
say it. Not in coach.
Not in coach. Comfort Plus. I took it down a peg. When I thought of you on the plane, and I'm not even kidding, I thought of you because I thought of this hypothetical in my mind. And I said, I think I know the answer to Steve's.
Yeah.
If you could go back in time and see someone perform live once, would you go to that room to see Elvis in Vegas, or would you go see Sinatra and the Rat Pack?
I mean, that to me is so easy. Rat Pack.
Rat Pack, right?
Rat Pack in the Sands.
Okay.
For sure. I've literally dreamt about it.
Really?
I've thought about it. I go down rabbit holes all the time. I just rewatched the HBO film that was done probably 15 years ago, where Ray Liotta played Sinatra. After he had passed, I was like, oh, I should go see. I should watch that again. So I pulled out the old DVD and put it in, and it's just it's a moment in time. Like Elvis is an icon, right? But the Rat Pack, that is a sliver of time where all those guys were at the height of their powers.
Yep.
They're helping JFK get elected. It's like the beginning of the end for them as well. Like this is gonna be as big as they get, and after those shows at the Sands, it's gonna a slow decline into irrelevance because the '60s are gonna come into play. And flower power and all that stuff, and the
hippies killed it all.
The hippies killed it all. Yeah.
What would you say? One of the best,
But what would your answer be to that question?
But to the two of them, I mean, I would probably just want to see Sinatra and the Rat Pack too.
Yeah.
But I will say this, like as far as like a show that goes on, I would say there's probably like a handful of shows I wish I could see somebody put their show on. And I've seen in my lifetime a couple of great showmen.
Yeah.
Right. Bruno Mars's show was unbelievable. They didn't stop from the beginning to the end. They were phenomenal. I couldn't believe the energy, and they're just the group themselves, not just Bruno, but the way he brought the whole thing, the whole vibe they put out there is phenomenal. But like I could imagine like seeing Michael Jackson.
Sure.
Right, I would put like a Michael Jackson performance, that Elvis performance. There's just people that know how to perform.
Right, yeah.
That are just, you're watching an icon do their thing, But Sinatra's show compared to Elvis's show is probably totally different, as you said earlier, vibe. Right?
Yeah.
You're just sitting there listening to the crooners and do their thing, but like an Elvis thing was like an extravaganza. You have the...
But you also think about, like, I listened to the Sinatra live at the Sands.
Yep.
The energy, you don't need to be dancing around because you have the big band behind you.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much energy behind the big band.
I love a horn section.
And,
I love a horn section. Oh, my goodness. Oh, I'm like Frankie Valli when he finally got his horns. That's phenomenal. Instantly, I'm hard.
Yeah. Sorry?
What'd you say? It's such a, when you get a brass section hitting on all
cylinders,
I love that, man.
The best. There's a Mac the Knife by Sinatra live at the Sands. Listen to that, and he's acknowledging each one of the band members that's blowing on the trumpet or the saxophone or the trombone, and he's singling them out, and they're kind of taking these victory laps, and they're just, the song builds and builds, and it culminates to this big crescendo, and you're just like, I don't know, every time I listen to it, I'm like, wow, I'm in a banquet at the Sands or at the Golden Nugget listening to this, and just like, you're just kind of taken back, where you listen like, One for My Baby, One for the Road. That's a song, it's just a man and a piano.
Yep.
And it's got more emotion than, Hey Jude.
Yeah.
And Hey Jude, listen to how powerful. I mean, it's just a guy and a piano. It's a crooner song.
What really struck me from that whole thing was that you would sit at the banquette and not at a pub table right up on stage.
Oh, if it was the same, I'd probably be on the outside listening and sweeping the floor. Yeah.
You choose a banquette.
Yeah.
Right,
You want to be with
I would love to be right there on it, like getting the spit on me. That'd be great. Like just to be right there as they're singing and going nuts.
Yeah. To get to witness that. Michael Jackson I never got to see. Springsteen I never got to see.
I saw Elton John, and I'm not a big Elton John fan, but I saw Elton John, and I have to say, put on a hell of a show.
Great show. I was there with you.
We saw Elton John, and I have to say, we both agree. He put on a hell of a show. You did.
I wept repeatedly. Because I was like, again, like you, I don't think I'm a huge Elton John fan. I have some songs in my phone, but I was like, oh my God, I've heard this guy. It hits you. You're like, I know every song.
Yeah.
And I've heard every song on the radio, and this is his farewell tour. And I'm here in this moment where he's singing these songs for the last time, supposedly, because there's been like 3 more tours or whatever. But it really hit me. I was like, wow, these songs are so resonant with me because I've heard this is my childhood.
Right.
Back in the station wagon, listen to this stuff.
Billy Joel live. Seen Billy Joel. He was great.
Yeah.
You never saw him?
Never.
He's at the Garden. You should go. What are you doing? You want to go?
I'd love to see Billy Joel.
I'll take you to see Billy Joel.
I'll tell you this. I saw the Killers in Nashville. Brandon Flowers, the lead singer, I was just sitting there going, this guy's got to write a ballad at some point because it would give him a moment in time to slow down. This guy, it's like a spin class. It's like 3 more. This dude is just out there selling every song. Yeah. It was unbelievable. My kids came with me. My son is 6, about to turn 7. My daughter, dude, you bring your kids to their first concert, and my son knows that he's familiar with the songs. My daughter knows them because I play them all the time when we're driving. And to see my son react, and he's like doing the drums and he's doing the guitar, so cool. And the songs end, and he's just going, yeah, and he's clapping. It's just like, I don't know, to see a performer have an impact on a fresh mind like that. So it's so exciting to watch that.
And especially your mind that you're trying to imprint because you're such a fan of the Killers, right? Yeah. That's your number 1 favorite people.
Oasis,
got it. Right.
Oasis Beyond.
Yeah. And that, beyond but like to see that happen. Like I took my daughter to the Imagine Dragons concert. And she's going nuts on top of the world.
Both from Vegas. These bands are both from Vegas.
Oh yeah.
I don't understand Imagine Dragons. I hear the songs and I'm like, okay. And then I had a joke. I was like, my car's been making some weird noises. So I took it to the mechanic and he finally pulled out the Imagine Dragons CD. Sorry. I know you're friends with them, but
I still appreciate comedy.
But I don't know if there's like a feud or I have no clue because they're both huge arena.
There must be something in the water there in Vegas.
I think it, but that is, I know that they're a huge band and they're on the radio constantly. My daughter loves them. My son loves them. They're probably more familiar with Imagine Dragons than the Killers, to be honest with you.
Well, they're also on the radio more, right?
Constantly, yeah.
But
they're like a weird.
They're a bizarre bunch, but they're great good people. They got. They're very
their songs
religious.
are thumpy.
They're very religious. They don't curse, which I found out the hard way. Because when Sal and I did the Imagine Dragons punishment, I had to we got up on stage and get people to boo us. We started cursing. And then when we came off stage, they were like, yeah, we don't curse. And we were like, oh, no. I was like the most embarrassed I've ever been.
Are they like a Christian
No,
rock
there
band,
might be.
Are they Mormon?
They might be Mormon. I'm not sure what they are, but they're religious.
Well, okay.
But or maybe because we were like we started doing a thing saying fuck the Imagine Dragons. And we started calling them the Imagination Dragons to like get the people bad because they wanted to make us look like real idiots, which they did. By all we had to do was curse. So we're on stage, me and Sal and Q and Murr in the back with the band, and when we started doing that, the guy, Q tells us to do whatever, and the guy was like. And you see Dan's face. It's not on TV, but we see it on the footage. Yeah. He's like, "Oh, no, really? Yeah, I can't. Oh, yeah."
I think we all might have gone to Santa's Pub in Nashville. I think we all went during the Nashville Comedy Festival. Mm-hmm. So it's Santa's Pub, and they do karaoke. And Santa's Pub is basically a trail.
Oh, yeah, I was there.
So we go in.
Oh my goodness!
And I go up on stage.
Yes.
And they're like, okay, we got you set up. And I'm like, I go on stage. I'm like, what's up, fuckers? The place gets quiet. I'm like, okay, you guys, nobody's drinking here tonight? I go, cheers, everybody. I drink. And somebody taps you on the shoulder and goes, turn around. And you look, and it says 2 rules. 1, no swearing. 2, no drinking. I'm like, I've been on stage for 10 seconds, and I'm already.
You just sat there and sang your heart out.
Oh God, it was so awful.
Oh, that was so
Awful,
funny.
awful.
And no drinking while on stage, no profanity, and
Yeah.
you check both those boxes quick.
Within
You're an
seconds.
you're an overachiever, really. If you think
They
about
must have thought, "Oh my God, this guy's trying to break a record." Shall we get into this?
Let's
Here
get
we go.
into it. Let's help some peoples.
Yeah. Okay, this is coming to us from Kaylin. Hey, cool moms. Do you have any advice for someone who has a hard time studying? Thanks, you all, for being so cool. I listen to you every day on my way to school.
Well, stop listening to podcasts and start studying.
That's right.
That's the
yeah.
one. No, but thank you for
Kaylin.
listening. Keep listening. Thank you.
Yeah.
Don't forget to subscribe. To studying, I don't know. See, this is hard for me because I was never really a studier. I was one of those kids that was just mentally, just blessed mentally, where I could just listen in class. And I swear to God, I could just listen in class.
You got awesome grades?
Amazing grades.
Really?
Yeah. I was really smart. I was.
I know you're very smart, but yeah, you don't seem like the one that's going to be burning.
Well, I come across as a class clown, but I never was. I was always
Yeah.
very, very geeky. But I did I used to just listen I never forget the story. I used to just listen in class and be able to do it. I would never, I just took notes, and whenever I wrote it down, I remember it. And I remember my mother, she was like, "Don't you have a test tomorrow?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "But I know it all." And she goes, "No one knows everything." I said, I know it. And she goes, "Go study." I'm like, "Mom, I don't have to. I know it." She goes, "All right, give me." And she gives me, and she quizzes me on all of it. I get it all right.
Really?
All of them. And she goes, "Go read it again." And I said, "Why?" She goes, "No one's perfect." That's just sent me to her room. And I had to go and read it again, even though I had it all right.
Wow, your mom's more Asian than mine.
I know, it's crazy. She
That's
was
crazy.
She was super strict. And my mom wasn't very smart. I don't mean that in a mean way. My mom wasn't very. She was more of a people person than she was book smarts.
Yeah.
But she was very intelligent when it came with dealing with people. She was super organized. She was always an executive assistant her whole life.
Right.
And she was very good at that career and that work and excelled in it. But she wasn't very like trivia smart or like a studier or did good in school.
Sure, yeah.
So I think she didn't understand how someone could just.
So was your father really receptive to just downloading things pretty instantly, or where did you get it from?
It must have been I would say probably my dad.
Yeah.
Or it might have skipped a generation because my grandfather was like my grandfather was like an inventor. My grandfather invented a piece of machinery they still use in the tomato business today, a
Really?
tomato sorting machine. He invented this machine that they basically knocked off. He never patented it. And it sorted with a conveyor belt, sorted the size of the tomatoes by type.
Could you imagine if he had that patented? You would never.
I'd be so tomatoes. I would not be doing this podcast.
You would not
I'd be
You'd be in
eating,
a castle somewhere in Italy.
throwing tomatoes down to people.
You'd be everywhere with your servant in a gondola.
Now I'm in a gondola?
Yeah.
You get your own
Isn't that
gondola?
what the aristocrats do in Italy?
They get around by gondola?
They get, yeah.
It's like an Uber app.
Or Ferrari. You'd have a Ferrari. You'd have a fleet of Ferraris.
Yeah.
Brett Ernst, who we're both familiar with.
Yes.
One of my favorite stories is he was friends with the Dago Blue Angels in Florida, Miami, Florida. They were called the Dago Blue Angels because these three guys each bought a Corvette. But one was red, one was white, and one was green. And on the highway, they'd drive in formation as the Italian flag.
Oh, my goodness. That's amazing. That is amazing.
that hilarious?
That is amazing. Yeah.
That is so cool.
So I wasn't a big studier, but when I had to study, I would always say when it felt like a chore, I never receptive. Like I always focused on you had to be studying. So I would try to make it interesting by not being like, oh, I'm studying. Don't make it feel like a chore. If it felt like a chore to me, it never really worked.
Well, look, I'm the complete opposite of you. I was a horrible student. Horrible. Horrible student. Terrible. I can't stress it enough. So I had to force myself to sit down and really study.
Okay.
And
so you're the guy to ask here.
Yeah, it just comes down to just like, obviously, I wish I could go to. Everybody says this, right? You wish you could go back to school in your mid-20s or even your 30s because you just have the maturity to do it. But at that age, I get it. You just want to do. You're so easily distracted, and I can't imagine being a kid with this in your hand, right there.
Discipline, you'd say, is the key then?
I think you just got to force yourself to sit there and go, okay, from 4 to 4:45, I'm putting this on airplane mode, and I got to get my work done.
Schedules.
That's it.
Schedules and discipline.
It sucks.
Yeah.
But you got to do it. It's the only way to do it. It's the only way for me that I had to do it.
Also, find ways to cheat. Because, right, school doesn't really mean that. I mean, college doesn't mean that much.
Yeah.
Because, like, I have an accounting degree. I think I know 5 or 6 people that do what they did in college.
I couldn't even tell you what I learned in college.
Right?
I have no clue.
So I think find a way to cheat.
Yeah,
It's
I
probably
agree.
the best
Yeah.
advice. I think it's probably
By the way,
best advice.
I'm dead serious.
Yeah.
I cheated all through high school. 100%. There was one time in chemistry, I got the high score.
Really?
And then the teacher asked me to come up and explain all my answers. And then the next test, he had me sit over by the Bunsen burner tables and shit,
Yep.
And the class took it over here. I failed. So he was basically teaching me a lesson, but I was poaching off everybody.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It's good that you spread out too. You don't only want to cheat off one kid. That's the secret. You don't only want to cheat off one person because
right.
then your test will match exactly. You want to cheat off both partners. You want to look left and right,
All of
east
them.
west.
All of them.
I got pinched bad in high school because it was in grammar school.
Yeah.
Chris Matei borrowed my textbook and I had left my homework in it.
Yeah.
And he copied word for word my homework.
And then they thought
And
you
then
cheated.
yes. Then the next day, they said they called me and Chris in and they're like, you cheated. I'm like, I didn't cheat. And then Chris is like, I didn't cheat. And I looked at him. I was like, yeah, you did. And he was like, no, I didn't. And I was like, and that was like his word against mine. And then we both got punished for it. And I was like, from that day forward, I was like, you can't borrow my textbook anymore.
Yeah. Were you good friends with the guy?
I was.
or-
He was on my street. Yeah. Still good friends for a long time.
And you were still cool after that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you got
Yeah.
in a little bit of trouble, whatever. But he was my neighborhood friend too. We ended up going to the same school, but we were on the same street. So as a double,
Yeah.
it wasn't just a school friend.
Chris Matei.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder if he's out now.
Sneaky son of a bitch.
Yeah, he did. It was smart. He used his resources in front of him. That's what I'm saying. Find ways to cheat. That's it. Find resources. They're out there. Airplane mode.
Or just be disciplined.
Yeah.
Do it the old-fashioned way.
I guess the responsible thing for us to tell you is to be disciplined. And
But the sooner you do it, and then you find a system that works for you,
it doesn't become a thing.
then it becomes kind of regimented.
Yeah.
And you find your own way through it. But
What did I say? Every habit begins as another word. What's the word? Every habit begins as a. See, I should have studied.
it's so sad that the minute you say that, I'm like, wait, does this apply to masturbation? Is that a habit? Is masturbation a habit?
Why does it always come down that to you?
Well, that's the first thing I think about.
That would be a habit, though.
Yeah. Is it a habit?
It would be a habit, yeah.
Habitual?
It's habitual for sure.
Yeah.
You don't think so?
I don't know. Kanye West was addicted to it.
Addicted. I get
Yeah.
it.
That's what he just. He just came out
Stevie,
and said
Steve it alone. Steve it alone.
Leave it alone. This is coming to us from Sean. Sean says, hey, Joe, Steve, love the show and appreciate it being a great escape, especially these nutty times. My question is, if a comedy career went away tomorrow, what would you do?
If a comedy career went away tomorrow, what would I do?
What would you be doing?
Okay, so that makes it sound like we always let's answer it this way, okay?
Okay.
Because that question seems like it's very much like, okay, you have to make ends meet. What are you going to do now? Not like, if you could have any job in the world, what would you be? I want to be an architect, but I don't have the skills for that.
Right.
So what would you do? I would probably have to enter the sales force somewhere. I would have to sell.
You would crush it.
I'd be a salesman for sure. That's where my skill set is.
You would. I think you are a natural salesman, or you would be an incredible lawyer because you're very
Lawyer.
convincing.
But I don't have the degree for a lawyer. He says if it ends tomorrow, I don't have time to go back to school. I can't be doing that. If I got to make ends meet right now.
Oh, we're talking ends meeting right now.
I would say, well, I mean, if your comedy career ended right now, what are you going to live off the fat of the land?
Well, it ended
missus?
5 years ago.
Not true. We started this podcast 7 months ago.
That's right. Yeah.
It's almost happy anniversary time.
It is.
It's almost. This is episode like 32 or 33, right? There's 52 weeks in a year. No, it's not even anywhere near close then.
No, we got like 20.
Well, no, we filmed the first one. Oh, no. That was Yin Yang Parmesan. Yin Yang Parmesan we started, and it just got shelved. Because it was in my old apartment in the city. Yin Yang Parmesan started a year ago.
I think that is such a funny name.
So
yeah.
great. I would say I would end up in sales. I wouldn't want to do automotive because I feel like there's a bad karma around that. I would like to do high-end either yachteries, like yachts. I don't know anything about yachts. Furniture. I would go with furniture.
You just gave like 6 answers.
Furniture. I would get into furniture sales. I would get into high-end
just
furniture
gave-
sales.
He was like, you were convincing yourself of what you're going to do.
I would go in furniture.
Furniture?
Furniture sales, yeah.
What is it about furniture that
I sold furniture back in the day, and I liked it. I enjoyed it. I like decor. I enjoy decor. I love good home goods.
Are you out of breath from that?
Thinking about it, it's mentally exhausting.
What fascinates furniture to me? Like when you buy a home, right, or you're moving into a new place, it's like, okay, we got to get furniture. Like to me, it's like that's like shopping for a refrigerator. It's like, who wants to do that shit? I find it so. It's like that's the last thing. It's like getting an oil change. It's like, oh God, I knew it came. I had to do it now.
You're either that person or you're not. You're either a person that enjoys the furniture shop or doesn't. You're either a Maxxinista or you're not. You're either a home gooders or you're not.
I'm not.
I am. Yeah. So this is why it works.
I'll sit on the product and I'll sleep on the product, but I don't want to go buy the product. Yeah.
You know, this is what I like about furniture is because you could build a whole experience around it. I'm not going to be a guy who only works that sells a place that sells chairs. I want to sell the whole house to them. I want to help them. Maybe I'll sell houses. That'd be fun. Real estate.
Real estate?
Commercial. I'd want to do commercial real estate.
Well, I'm sure that there's a lot more money in it.
Yeah.
Which would be very appealing to you.
But right now it's tough. What's that to me? I'm the only one at this table that wants to make money. I'm only about the cheddar. I'm about the green. You ain't about the green. You're not about the green. You're not about that money. You're about that money. Are you kidding? You're about that money more than I am. You're out here hustling, flowing. What are you doing?
Hustling, flowing. Okay. Honestly, if it all flipped,
yep.
You're in a multiverse tomorrow.
Yep.
You're in an alternate universe. You're selling furniture.
Well, when you say it that way, it sounds not fun.
I just don't imagine that. Yeah. I just can't see you in a furniture store with like a name tag on. I just don't see you doing that.
I don't know. I feel like that's the answer to my question. I mean, I would love to open a coffee shop, but I'm not going to do that. This isn't a Hallmark movie. Because I don't have the capital to start up a coffee shop. That's a big time money.
Coffee, it's not like you're chartering fishing boat. It's a coffee shop. You need a grinder, some cups.
There you are, hustling and flowing. You're out there making that money.
Yeah. I think you could do a coffee shop. A dream I've always had is getting one of those old rail cars.
This is not the question.
Oh, what's the question?
The question is, if your comedy career ended tomorrow, what would you do? You're like, I would love to be a railroad operator.
No. I would open a diner in an old rail car.
That'd be great.
I'd do that.
Okay.
Flapjacks, waffles.
Where are you parking it? Where are you parking? Nashville?
Anywhere, someplace fun. We're just like, hey Mo,
who the hell's Mo? Is he the guy passing that needs flapjacks? Yeah. I love how you built up this whole scenario in your head. Let me talk to you about
Mo
this.
And Doreen, yeah.
Mo and Doreen, they come every morning.
Yeah.
He takes banana chip. He takes banana chip. Yeah.
It's fun.
She drinks an unsweetened iced tea. What do you think about that would be fun to have like your own rail car, but I don't think that's in the spirit of this question.
The spirit, yeah.
It's not opening your own business. If you had to go get a job.
Trade? Yeah. Okay.
If you had to go get a job tomorrow, what would it be? It all falls apart. Jess sprains her wrist. She can't work anymore. You, no more comedy.
Sprains her wrist?
I don't know. I don't want to make it a bad thing. I don't want to say she falls down a flight of steps and breaks her legs. Right? She sprained her wrist. Seems like the right amount of thing.
Yeah, okay.
Her wrist will heal. She'll be okay.
Yeah, she could still do laundry.
Okay, so now, what are you doing to pay the bills?
That, I would have no idea.
See?
I would have no clue.
When you think about it,
if I had to get a job tomorrow. Like during pandemic when everything shut down, I literally was like, and I'm not joking when I say this, I always wanted to work at McDonald's. And there's a McDonald's right down the street from where I lived in Pasadena. I was like, maybe I'll just work there for kicks. But then I thought, I don't want it to be demeaning to somebody when I go in there. Because I'd still work hard. I'm sure I would. I would take the task at hand and but I didn't want it to be, I didn't want to trivialize it to somebody else. Because it's like, that's their living. And you're doing this for fun. And then I had heard Home Depot was hiring. And I was like, I don't know how long I'm going to be out of work.
Yeah.
And who knows what's going to happen. And instantly you just think of your family. Because I think most people in our community would be like, well, I'll just start a podcast and monetize it or whatever. And yes, you could do that, right? But I was thinking brass tacks, what am I going to do? Because I got to keep food on the table. And eventually we're going to drain out of our dough. It's dependent on how long this goes.
For sure.
I really did think about Home Depot for a second. And then I thought, oh, that could be kind of...
You're not handy though, are you?
No.
Got it.
Okay, here we go. Next question coming to us from Cyrus. Hey, Two Cool Moms. I don't have a question besides This is a two-parter.
I don't have a question besides.
This is a two-parter. I made that part.
Okay.
And you can answer this or you don't have to.
Okay, start.
But it says
start over. Start over. He goes all this.
Sorry.
No, we'll show it. We'll show the mess.
Yeah. Joe, what was your favorite episode of Jokers? And Steve, what was your all-time favorite day ever? Which means, Steve, I've never seen your TV show. But Joe, what was yours?
You had 3 seasons of Sullivan and Son.
Joe, what was your favorite episode of your show? And then Steve, what was your favorite day ever? Thank you, Cyrus.
My favorite.
That's got to be a tough question for you, though, right? Because I'm sure you get asked that quite a bit.
That's tough. But I always have a lot of moments that I always loved, but it's hard. I think hands down one of my favorite moments ever was I always loved when we played Receptionist because for some reason, every time we played Receptionist, we felt like a little bit more professional. The environment was perfect. I always said we could do a whole show just as Receptionist, like a whole show, like season of us just being Receptionist because it was never got old what we could do.
Yeah.
So I always loved that. And I think every time I played a Receptionist, if I string those times together, those turns, those are probably some of my favorite, best things I think I've ever done. For sure.
I still think, and when I came in your place today, I read an article, and your genie bit is to this day it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And my parents are not as well versed on Jokers because they just watch news and Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy like any proper 70-year-old does. But I was like, Dad, you gotta see this because as the podcast's going, he's like, so Joe Gatto,
right.
What has he done? I'm like, okay.
Because I met them at the taping. I met them at the taping.
Catch up to speed. Yeah. So I showed them the thing, and when you see a 75-year-old Korean woman fucking like dying laughing,
you've made it,
and it's the same reaction as you see from a 6-year-old boy, Kent. It just like. And by the way, I'm in tears every time I see it. It's like a fine wine I bring up from the basement every now and then. I'm like, Genie on strings? Yeah. It's just fucking, that's one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
When we thought about it, it was funny because we were like, how do we just went down there was a bit in the writer, there was a day in the writer's room when we were thinking about punishments.
By the way, was that filmed in Nashville?
No, it was here.
It was, okay, because there's somebody wearing a Nashville shirt.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, maybe they filmed it.
No, that was filmed in Jersey. I love that, somebody, when we would, in the writer's room, we had to put up like punishments. We had to think about everybody. So it's like using Joe's body was the like header, and then we started bullet pointing stuff in it, and different things ended up on that list. One of them was wrecking a set. And we just didn't know. We didn't know what the context would be.
Right.
And then we just started saying, we were like, what if we just like, I was Miley Cyrus and I was like a wrecking ball, and I was just like, well, how could I be a wrecking ball? And that's how that started, and that's why the genie joke came up.
Okay.
And it was like, well, what flies? Like it was a whole thing. The original thing was I was going to be Peter Pan. But then Q had done a punishment where we made him Peter Pan, where he was a wrestler.
Right.
So he came out in Peter Pan. We're like, well, we don't want to reuse that idea. What else flies? And then we came up with the genie, and they were like, oh, he could have a shirt off. We could paint him purple. Like it was like a whole thing. So it came down to that. Yeah. So I think that the genie's up there for me for sure. Anytime I use my body though, breaking the tables with my body when I was doing I had to find the tables that were breakaway when I had to jump on tables as the manager. I always loved that. That was fun way to use my body as well.
But I don't think people realize it's not just the show. It's every day, wherever you go. The hardest I've laughed when we've toured together, when I've come out to work and open for you, is we were in an airport. I forget which one it was, but you went straight for this guy's suitcase. Like you didn't see it, like you always do, and you never casually do it. You start looking around like there's birds in an airport. You're like looking up, and you fucking walloped on this dude's suitcase. He goes, "What the fuck?" And I am just crying. It was one of the best pratfalls I've ever seen in my life. Oh my God!
You missed a good one this weekend. This weekend, which I didn't know these doors do this.
Yes.
Do you know the doors that the ones that slide, they're motion censored and they just open, right? But they're just like they meet each other.
Yeah.
So I was like, I just timed it and I walked fast into the door. Mm-hmm. And when you blow into them and hit them, I hit them right on the seam. I didn't know that they were on like a thing and they swivel open like a breakaway. So I basically blasted into the doors. They went and they opened like so. I completely broke the door, and they just started going. I was like, oh shit. I was with Scott. I was like, oh my God. I was like, oh no. And I was like, let's get out of here. Like it was too much of a thing even for me. They broke away. I didn't even know they did that.
If you see stanchions with the little thing like at the airports,
that's
or whatever,
my finish line.
That's
in my mind. I hear dun 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 dun. Cha 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 cha. That's what I hear in my head.
You could almost see it coming when you've gone out with Joe enough. You're like, oh, here we go. Just be prepared.
There's definitely faces of people where it's like, where Sal had developed this, and I think you're getting close to it too, where you see it coming, and then you realize like the scenario we're in or the environment we're in, and you're like, oh, it's not a good idea here, and the face turns into like, please no, please don't, like I'm begging for it, and then that just makes me like get it bigger and get ready to do it. That's my favorite in the world.
It never ends, though. That's the great part about going out with you is that there's never a missed opportunity.
Never.
That stuff.
You gotta get out there and make a fool of yourself. What was your favorite day ever?
My favorite day ever
had to be the birth of your daughter.
Yeah, I mean, look, those are all. I don't know. When I think about this, is so stupid, I guess, but it revolves around my mom.
Oh, great.
And I've thought about this memory quite a few times, but I remember we would go visit my father. He owned a fish store in Rahway, New Jersey. So he owned this like fish market. And we go visit him, and then we were driving home, and I remember we saw this like, those parking lot carnivals?
Yeah.
We were just driving along like Route 9 in New Jersey, and we see one of these things, and we're like begging our mom, like, Mom, come on, please take us. And she pulls over and takes us. And for some reason, I remember the sun was setting, and she bought my brother and I these, Superman and Spider-Man like dolls that were like flexible. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, man, this is the greatest day ever. And I don't know, for some reason that memory has popped up quite a few times for me lately. And it was just, I remember my mom smiling and like handing them over to us after she paid for it. And it's one of those things where I could tear up because now I have kids of my own, but that's something that has come back into play.
That's super cool.
Quite often, yeah. For some reason, it was just like the perfect time. The sun's going down. My mom was smiling. She looked beautiful, and she's handing these things over to her kids. And we thought, this is the best day ever.
It literally is like that saying, it's the little things. As you get older, you really, really believe that, don't you? Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it's the little things. You hear that all the time, and then you're like, you don't really appreciate it. Then you start to. But then especially, I think, when you have kids, and you have those little moments, and you see like the core memory being like built into stuff. Like I try as much as I can to say yes to do little things, like when the kids are like, oh, Daddy, can we play? Or Dad, can we do something? And I'll be looking at what I have to do and all the stuff I have to get done. And I'm like, can I take 3 minutes here? And then take the 3 minutes and do it.
Yeah.
It's always such a big laugh or a big fun or something silly happens. And you're like, I'm so glad I took those 3 minutes.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I watched, what was it, the Ric Flair 30 for 30? And I've seen this reiterated many times in documentaries that I've seen. But maybe it was the right time for me to hear it and receive this information. But his daughter was basically stating, my father was gone all the time. And every time he came home, it was like Christmas. We got all the greatest toys in the world, but we wanted our dad. Mm-hmm. And I've heard that before, and I've always tried to make time for my kids, but it's not just making the time, but like making sure I'm filling the time properly, giving them undivided attention, doing something active. Now they're into sports, so it's like, all right, well, let's not just sit here and watch TV. Let's go. I'll throw the football to you. I'll do whatever you want. We'll go to the creek and walk around and splash around, whatever you want to do. Yeah. So just try to be active in that, but I'm also trying to give them experiences now too, as they're getting older. So it's not just like, all right, I'm going to go on the road this weekend. It's like if they can come with me, and then like when we're on the road together, we, you love going to the Market Street and doing all the shopping and stuff, or seeing some kind of fun touristy things. It's like doing those things with my family,
right?
Trying to get them embedded so that they're not thinking, oh, my dad was always working. It's like, no, my dad took me to New York City.
Yeah.
My dad
Yeah.
took me to MJ on Broadway. And,
It also makes you enjoy the town more that you're in, right? The time that you're away from home, because it becomes like a thing.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
To see it together.
I don't know. If there was a moment where, I just say to you, what was your best day ever? What is yours?
Oh, my best day ever. Yeah, that's... I mean, you instantly go to your childhood, I feel like. I feel like I do, too, when you say, what's your best day ever, And I think I would have to probably say... I talked about one of the moments that popped in my mind here before, but another one popped in my head. I think one of the best moments I remember was my dad came home from work early, and we were in the pool. It was during the summer. My dad came home from work early, and we were swimming in the pool, me and my sisters, and we had an above-the-ground pool. And my father came in, and he had his suit on and his tie or whatever, and he comes back, and we're by the pool, and I said, "Dad, you're home early." I was like super excited that he was home. I was like, "Oh, you're home early enough you could come swim." And he said, "Yep," and he just jumped in the pool in his suit.
Oh, really?
And I remember that. And my dad was huge. My dad was 6'3", and we had an above the ground pool.
Yeah.
And he just jumped over the side. He had to be in his late 40s, I guess he was, right? Because I'm like whatever. So he's probably in his late 40s, probably about my age-ish. And I was just super excited that he was home. And I said, "Come in the pool." And he goes, "I had to go change." I said, "Come right now." And he goes, "Okay." And he dropped his briefcase and he jumped in the pool in his suit and he started throwing me up and down. And we were just laughing. And he was laughing about how stupid it was.
Yeah.
And then my mom was in the window of the kitchen, which faced, and she goes, "What are you doing, you dummy?" Like when they started laughing at him, He's like, "You want me to come in the pool now?" She's like, "Oh," she's like, "Well, you're lucky. I just picked up the other suit." And they're laughing through the window. And my mom was like, "Oh, you're lucky I picked up the other suit. You have it tomorrow." And it was just really, I remember that memory, and I was like, "Oh, that was really cool." And now I try to embody that and surprise my kids with awesomeness like that my father did in that moment all the time.
You do?
Yeah, I do, and I do that.
Yeah,
and I do try to do that. And that moment is definitely like just.
But you don't just do it with your family. You don't just do it with your kids. You do it with your friends. I mean, you do it constantly, and it's one of the reasons why I love working with you.
Oh, I love you, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna jump in the pool anytime to play with you in my suit. All right, next one.
One more. Okay,
time, yeah.
One more. Here we go. It's coming to us from Elijah. Hey guys, you really have positively impacted my life for the longest time now, and I just want to let you know I deeply appreciate you. Oh. Do you have any dream guests that you would want on the pod?
Oh, as a special aunt.
A special aunt, yeah.
I will say, now, this is the format of this podcast is fun because you get a look into somebody's past or like the way they came into the person that you've known them to be, but then you also get to hear them give advice. So it's like it's two versions of a person, which is really, really cool. So for me, somebody that would probably fill that void somebody that I think would make a good guest for me selfishly that I would love to sit down and talk with, I probably would say, I mean, this is pie in the sky, right? You pick anybody in the world. Yeah. I would, you know who popped right into my head, but I don't even know why, but I was like, oh, he probably just has so much perspective and an interesting life, was Robert De Niro. Like, I would love to hear about Robert De Niro, young Robert De Niro growing up, what his relationship with his mother was, and then like all the lessons that he's probably learned over time.
Sure.
Right? I think like that would be crazy, but I would love to hear about like because I don't really know anything about Robert De Niro growing up, like the way he grew up, besides A Bronx Tale. Which isn't even his movie, but
right? Yeah, it's Chaz
Palminteri's movie, yeah,
kind of, yeah.
But I think to hear some sage advice, or just to hear what his opinion, his take on stuff.
Fuck Trump. Sorry, you can take that out. But that's the first thing I think about De Niro when he's at the Tony Awards or something, right, or the Oscars.
Yeah.
So De Niro, though, because De Niro, I would find an odd choice because I think all the things you're stating, you don't know much about him, is because he's done that probably calculated. Same with like Leonardo DiCaprio, where they don't do many interviews, so that the only time you see them is when they're enveloped within a character of a story. So I would think that that I don't know, maybe the wide breadth of all the different experiences he's had in terms of storytelling would give him a good perspective on life.
Maybe,
But I wouldn't see that one coming.
I know. Well, you know what? I recently also just saw there was like an Actors Roundtable that is all over social media right now, and he's on it with a bunch of people at it, and he just to see him, in that, which is basically just a podcast, just to see them in that scenario. He was just on my top of mind. I thought he might be a interesting person get some perspective from. Not that I don't know whether to agree with them or disagree with them. I would just be like, I wonder what you would think about if somebody asked him what the best day of his life was. Like if you think about that, it's hard to answer for me or you. Imagine if you're Robert De Niro trying to answer what's the best day of your life.
Yeah.
Right?
Because you would instantly think of the personal accolades you achieve professionally, right?
Right.
But it's always
Something.
It's
right.
never those
Your mom
things.
gave you a toy, right? And
My mom gave me a toy when I was a kid because it was totally unexpected. We were just driving home, and then all of a sudden we're on a Ferris wheel, and then we have a Spider-Man and Superman in our hands.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Cool.
How about you?
I think I would, a dream guest would be somebody I want to spend time with, but then obviously this podcast would be a great excuse. And it's probably because I just went down a rabbit hole. Ricky Gervais.
Yeah.
I absolutely love this guy. And
Fuck religion.
but he has an unapologetic stance, and there's things he says that I don't agree with.
But he's another person too. He got like famous later in life too, right? So like I wonder what his first half of like
Failed musician.
what.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's well known that he had tried to be in bands and stuff, and never worked out, and then obviously the BBC Two or whatever is what The Office was on, and it was a nothing show, and then just blew the fuck up, and I really respect him though too, because not only was he late to the game in terms of entertainment, but he was late to the game in terms of stand-up, and within a very, very short amount of time. You kind of remind me of him in terms of the journey of like starting it so late, but being so well versed in other facets that it only helped and enabled your journey as a stand-up. So he's somebody that had an hour special really quickly, and it was great.
Yeah.
And his last one was fantastic. And I follow him on Twitter, and there's things I'm like, I don't agree with any of this, but I'm like, that's funny though.
But there's perspective.
Yeah.
There too. Like I'd wonder how you'd field some of these questions. Like somebody that has an opinion, like that. I mean, that's weird. But like a fun one, just like a bubblegummy one that would just somebody to sit down and have fun with too. That's not as like heavy as like those two, because I feel like those two would be big. But I would think like Dolly Parton.
Oh my God!
Would you imagine
I love
Dolly?
her.
Love
One of
her.
the best concerts I've ever been to in my life.
I hear that from a lot of people.
It was the top 3 concerts I've ever been to, and I was dragged there kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
I don't want to go see this. And I left going, I got to see her again. That was amazing. She's fantastic. So personable.
Sit down and talk to her would be amazing, right?
Great stories, and the Jugs. I mean, still to
The judge that she dates?
the Jugs.
Oh, she still drinks milk at this age. Is that what you're saying? Yes, it's important. Calcium.
Yeah, I think for a fun one, Ricky Gervais.
Gervais would be fun too, yeah.
He'd be fun, and he'd be a little.
I don't disagree. We got time for one more.
One more? Okay, let's do it.
Yeah. Well, so if any of you are listening and want to come on this, Bobby, Ricky, Dolly, they all ends in, they all ends in Y.
All right, I believe this is Neri.
Okay.
Is her name. Hey, mommies, I just wanted to ask. This is. I picked this just for you.
Great.
You're gonna love this.
Hit me.
Are you ready? What is the best dessert ever invented? Also, we're gonna shout at her husband Russell because he's great. So Russell,
from what I hear, you're great.
you're great. Not only that, you have a fantastic lady.
Best dessert ever?
Best dessert ever invented.
I mean, this is an asinine question. There's no way to answer that clearly and quickly. I mean, what I would say for
Go top 3?
Top 3. If I'm going to pick top 3, everybody knows cannoli's got to be my top 3. Right?
Cannoli's a top 3.
Cannoli's a top 3 for me.
So cannoli's the fried, almost like
It's the
like
horn.
a taco with the
with the
stuff
cream.
in the yeah. Okay,
That's a cannoli.
Yeah.
Right, and then
That's your number 1.
That's up there for me for sure.
Okay.
A well placed cannoli.
Sure.
That or a lobster tail, which is kind of similar in that. A lobster tail is like a stuffed sfiadelle.
See, this is why Chinese food is not number 1 to me. It's because the Asians aren't known for any good desserts.
Nope.
At all.
Fried ice cream.
Right? That's not even theirs.
No.
That's
They
the
borrowed
Mexicans.
it. They borrowed it though.
Yeah.
That's what you get there. That's what you get there.
But I love a good tiramisu.
Tiramisu, you love?
I love a good cannoli.
Cannoli?
They're not my top 3 though.
No, okay. No. Icebox cake is up there for me.
Icebox cake?
Yeah, icebox cake is my grandmother's thing.
Wait, like you
You've
get
said
in
it
like a
before.
grocery store?
It's a layered cake. It's got a graham cracker crust, Jello, chocolate pudding, Cool Whip.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
That's.
I got to make one for you.
It sounds kind of disgusting, but I'm sure it's awesome, right?
You have to make
it's like a little bit everything.
It's a little bit of everything.
Okay.
It's phenomenal.
Wow.
Yeah, that's icebox.
I don't think I ever tried that.
That's phenomenal.
Is that an East Coast thing or like an
no,
Italian
it's
thing?
my.
or-
I got it. It's not Italian. I don't know.
Family thing.
It's a family thing, but
Okay.
everybody has versions of it.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, they call it an icebox cake because she used to keep it in the icebox.
All right. I'll give you my top three, and then you give me your top three.
Go.
Okay. Number one, or I'll go 3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1.
3, cheesecake, plain cheesecake.
I'm with.
maybe strawberries.
I'm with you on 3.
Okay.
3. I'm with you.
2, I had it today. Rice pudding. Love it.
I'm out.
Well,
2.
this
Go ahead.
Yang Yang Parmesan.
That's right. 1.
Number 1, chocolate ice cream.
Ugh.
That's it. I just need with rainbow sprinkles.
God. All right. If I'm gonna 3, 2, 1 it, I'll have to say 3. What?
How do you not like chocolate ice
cheesecake would be there. I don't like ice cream. It's a well-known fact. You should know this. Chocolate cake.
Will you shit your pants?
No, I'm not lactose intolerant.
Okay.
I'm very tolerant. I'm very lactose tolerant. I'm very lactose friendly.
Just a chocolate cake.
Cheesecake.
Yeah,
Cheesecake.
but number 2 is
no.
chocolate.
Number 2 is a strawberry shortcake.
Oh, sneaky.
I love a strawberry shortcake.
I do too.
And number 1, it's got to go. It's either cannoli or lobster tail for me, but probably a cannoli.
This is where you're going to lose me.
Okay. Well, we have a number 3 together, and that's all we could ask for. Thanks so much, everyone, for listening.
Yay!
Yeah, much love to you. We appreciate you. This has been 2 cool moms in Joe's apartment.
It has. It really has. I know because I drove. I came here from LaGuardia, but the opposite way of the city.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you, buddy.
Rate, review, subscribe. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
These 2 cool mommies love you, so show us some love.
Please rate us, review us, follow us on all social media, and subscribe to our YouTube.